There's a lot of confusion about non-duality and the illusoriness of the self, and how these things relate to the path and the goal of practice. Now, I and many other teachers often say to look for the self directly by turning your conscious attention toward its source. Look for what is looking, in other words. Now, it's a paradoxical instruction, but if you follow it closely, in the first instant, you might find that there is no center to experience. The moment you attempt to turn awareness upon itself, the apparent division between subject and object vanishes. So there's no self or I to be located at all. Awareness can't find a self in the same way that light can't find darkness. Darkness is simply the absence of light. It's not that light successfully makes contact with it and then drives it away. The feeling of I is never truly found. It's an uninspected illusion that vanishes the moment that it's truly looked for, not gradually after great meditative efforts. And this is why I often sound critical of gradual meditative efforts. Here's an analogy that might help. Imagine you had 2 dogs, and you put them out in the backyard for a time, but now they want to come back inside. And one simply scratches the glass and barks until you let him in. But the other dog can actually open the door with his paw. Now, this second dog has discovered the principle by which the door actually opens, and consequently his practice is to simply open it whenever he wants to come inside. The first dog has no other recourse but to enact a somewhat painful and annoying ritual of complaint, which occasionally wins him access to the house. So this dog spends hours barking and scratching at an unlocked door. Now, the fact that he might eventually get let in doesn't change the fact that his behavior has no causal relationship to the mechanism that keeps him barred from the house, which is, of course, the latch of a door. Now, we might be tempted to say that if both dogs get to experience the inside of the house, what's the difference? Okay, once they're in, and when they're out, they're out. So if both gradual and sudden paths lead to the same freedom, what's the difference? But there is a great difference most of the time, because the second dog simply opens the door. His means is perfectly united to his end. The first dog has no real means, and his occasional success is itself bewildering, because it depends on a principle over which he has no conscious control. This first dog can't open the door. He hasn't even noticed that it has a handle. Most experiences in meditation, even those that are generally celebrated as among its principal benefits, are nothing but barking and scratching at the door of freedom. Whatever precedes your recognition of the nature of awareness, whatever events you might regard as signs of progress, these have no causal relationship to the awakening of non-dual wisdom, because consciousness is already empty of self. In this moment, fix your attention on something. Look at your hand, for instance, and then simply look for what is looking. Just gently turn the mind upon itself. You may notice in an instant, and perhaps only for an instant, that the I, the presumed center of the experience of seeing, isn't there, leaving only the sphere of life. For that moment, there's this unity of emptiness and cognizance. There's this inexpressible condition in which everything is appearing, and from which everything is inseparable. This is the recognition of the inherent non-duality of awareness. And in this moment of non-dual seeing, your hand or any other object ceases to be an object in the ultimate sense. Of course, you don't suddenly become oblivious to the fact that it's your hand. Right? Non-duality is not stupidity. It's not merely the absence of knowledge or thought, but coincident with your conceptual knowledge, you can recognize its nature as an appearance. What you're calling a hand is in truth only a modification of the energy of awareness. It is inseparable from awareness, in the same way that images in a mirror are inseparable from the mirror's capacity to reflect light. If you look at your hand in a mirror, you can see it just as clearly, but there it's obvious that what you see is inseparable from the mirror's surface. When you look at your real hand, is it in any way separable from consciousness itself? All experience has exactly this status. It's a play upon awareness. And this recognition is at once the path and the goal of practice. It is freedom, because it releases you from the illusion of separateness. As a matter of experience, there is no place from which you are observing experience. There is just experience, just consciousness, without a center. And yet if thoughts arise unrecognized and interrupt this clear scene, the inherent freedom of awareness will then be overlooked and seem to be lost. The ultimate practice of mindfulness is to notice the inherent freedom of awareness again in this moment. And if you can recognize it, you will be unable to seek it by any other means. There's no time to seek it or to hope for it, because there's no distance between the moment you notice that you've forgotten and the moment of remembering. How can you hope for what is fully available now? You can't. You can only remember to enjoy it. And that is how actual freedom, the ultimate goal of meditation, becomes the path.